Ready? All right. Seeing that it is 7 o'clock, I'll call this meeting of the Community and Economic Development Authority to order. Next item on our agenda is a roll call. Joyce?
Cleary?
Here.
Hamilton?
Here.
Hardy? Here. Potts?
Here.
Udell?
Here.
Wheeler?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great, thank you much. Next item on our agenda is approval of minutes. We have minutes from our April 28th, 2022 meeting, and those were included in your packet.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The minutes are approved. Item number 4 is public appearances for non-agenda items. I don't believe we have anyone who's registered to speak on a non-agenda item. Unless our city administrator's here on a non-agenda item. He's shaking his head now. Item number 5 is resolutions and ordinances. We have none. And item number 6 is a Terra Vesta development presentation with Phil Sveum. I will turn it over to Phil.
Oh, there we go. Good morning. Thanks, Andy. We had an aerial video done just last week of Terra Vesta, so I was pretty timely on being able to provide you an update presentation on what's going on over there. And I think Andrew's going to start the video, and I'm going to comment on probably 8 or 10 spots that will stop the video. So that came up from MM, of course, and now looking south. And this is really the first phase of the development that started in 2019. And the homes that are along Endive Street, which is this street right here, runs all the way down to Goodland Park Road. And then the main street that runs up is Frisay. And so all of those homes have been built since 2019, including these along the east side of Frisay. There's about 139 dwelling units that are included in that original phase. Okay, Andrew? Again, looking south. So this area, all of this area here is what was started. We received the approvals in 2021, and this area has been this is the first edition right here. It's been under construction for a little over a year. All of the parcels are sold, and the builders are selling their units basically as quickly as they can build them. These all, the homes down on this end, all back up to the wetland. There's a very intricate development of wetland, of biocells that clean the water prior to it entering into the wetland area. Just for logistics, this is Larson Road. The town of Dunn is over here, and this is Goodland Park Road here. Go ahead. So we are now under construction with what is the second addition to Terra Vesta, and in total there'll be about 70 units of housing, including condo parcels here that will be 8 to 10 units per building. And then the rest are single family homes, and those that also back up to the wetland area. These lots are all committed already to 3 different builders as the ones that have been working with me since the beginning. Okay? Sure.
So that
This area in here? Or where are you talking?
Yeah, that new part that you said you sold to
I
three
think
builders.
I think we're about a year ahead of schedule right now. And this area here, these roads will all continue. This is Lacy Road, this is Suelo, and this is Brassica that runs up by the school. And these roads will all converge and will end up emptying out onto Larson Road. And I'm expecting probably about a 6 to 8 year period to complete the community.
Phil, I got a semi-related question that we had about, where do you plan to put, or where you told me when we had the groundbreaking, you had a spot for the B-cycle stations. Where are you putting those?
Those would probably be right down, there's an outlot right here, Mark.
Okay.
And we'll get, when the drone turns back around and looks the other way, I'll be able to show you a little bit better.
Because the reason I asked, with Chad here, I think it's good to know, is that we've had overtures from Oregon about connecting our network of bike trails down the road. And Terra Vesa sits out there about as far as you get on that east side. So I just wanted to ask that for my own edification, so.
That's interesting because, you know, this is a bike trail here, goes all the way down to Larson Road.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
And this connects with the Capital City Bike Trail up here.
Yep.
And really, it's about a 25 to 30-minute ride all the way down to the square.
Yeah, okay. Because that's going to be very important
on
when the
path.
B-bikes come out here, so, okay.
It takes Andy about 10 minutes, I think. But for
Five.
most of us, it's like 25 or 30.
Thank you, Phil.
Yep. The school, Forest Edge, it's K6 currently, and this is Mariposa Child Care Facility. And they are full and want to expand. Okay, Andrew? So this is the connection to 14, to Uptown, to the Osborne property over here. Currently, this parcel right here that's being constructed of 189 dwelling units. It's an interesting building concept because they refer to it as a Texas donut or a Dallas donut because the parking structure is in the middle and the units, the living units are around it. So you don't see any parking. So if you live in unit 209, you go up to level 2, get out of your car and walk into your unit. And so the parking structure will actually, there's no underground, it all goes up, and then the units are around it. So there's 189 units will be built right there. There's two parcels right here that are next to Mariposa are also going to be planned for condo or apartment, 36 to 50 units per building. The senior housing project is going to be right here. They are planning on 120 units of life estate, as well as another 60 of memory care and independent living. And I would expect I'm hoping they're under construction, if not this year, in the spring of next. They're under a reservation process right now, and they're getting significant interest from seniors who want to move in there. All right, let's go on to the next.
Phil, does the Texas Donut, does that complex have a name yet? Do you know?
No. They've built it in other locations. One of them is in Cottage Grove. And I think the other, that one and the others, he's referred to them as the Edge. That's all I know. So this is, our major park is down here, is 5 acres. And there's 2 other parks that are in the neighborhood, but this will be the most active park down here. The rest of this area is all part of the wetland and water treatment areas, open space. There's about 20 acres right here that had been farmed after we purchased the property. And it had been farmed for many years. And all along, I've hoped that this could become, or I guess let me back up. We did a lot of mining of material in here to use on the development for compaction around utilities. That's all been filled back in and graded and leveled and everything else. And it's probably, the soil is better than it was before around here. What I'd like to do is have a large community garden in this area. And originally I had thought that it could be farm produce from farm to table to be sold in the neighborhood, or also to be, have produce available for nonprofits and food banks. So I've been working with Wade, and now he's left the city, and then Scott Endel and Chad and there is I believe there was an RFP that was selected for the city to enter into an agreement for an agricultural park, an agricultural community park that will provide a lot of different services besides just growing produce, to become an educational facility, to become community gardens for more people that live throughout the city, to be able to have garden plots here, not just for people that live in Terra Vesa. But I think that the farm-to-table aspect of this is really important, and I think it's an opportunity that even from a tourism standpoint can be looked at as an advantage and as an amenity for the city. So it's a change of policy and how things have gone in the past. So I believe there's been an entity selected to provide this agricultural park final design, and hopefully that'll be moving forward very soon. So why don't you move ahead, Andrew, please? This was 250 acres originally. About 110 of it was dedicated to the city as parkland, open space, and wetland. Is it possible to stop right here? Good, thanks. This, again, the school, all this property back here, I think there's about 15 acres that the Worth family donated or somehow transferred to the Oregon School District. So they have a forest lab back here that they're really leveraging for all their students from a environmental study standpoint, to go along with what they've done with the school, with all the solar power, as well as the geothermal wells. This school does not have a gas line connected to it. There's no natural gas line. All their power, all their heating and air conditioning is powered by natural power. So they're leveraging that, I believe, that's how I look at it, to really increase their environmental studies, not only of this forestal area back here, but also the wetland, and also what I hope will be a great agricultural study location just down the street. Okay? I don't know if anybody gets dizzy watching these. It gets a little. The drone pilot is actually part of the. That's good. The drone pilot is actually part of the grading company. They use these now for their own promotion. This gives you a better shot of the school with all the solar panels, and they actually have growing gardens in these areas, these pockets within the school. Again, I guess this is where education is and where it should be, is teaching young people how to be environmentally conscious, and as well as growing their own food and just learning about these things. It's not taught, and it should be. Okay? Just another shot of it. And you see how close this downtown Madison is? It's crazy. The location of this property is, it's always been one of the most strategic locations in the county, frankly. It's been just waiting for something like this to happen. Okay? So this gives you a shot of the, you really can't see the steel beams that are up yet, but these 4 lots along Lacy Road, these 4 parcels are gonna be, commercial on first floor, and they're putting, I think, 12 apartments above on the 2nd and 3rd floor. So this will be the first mixed-use, developments since, I don't know when, especially in greenfield development. It just has not been possible. But there's about 4,000 square feet in each one of these 4 buildings. And I give credit to these entrepreneurs that are developing these buildings. I think there's risk involved, and yet I think they're going to see a great patronization from the folks that live in this neighborhood. One of these buildings will, probably this building here, will actually have our mail center. USPS will no longer deliver mail to each individual home. So it's either you put up kiosks in different places, but I decided that it would be best to have it in one location because I think it will also help these commercial tenants by having people come and get their mail every day or two and maybe pick up something to eat or do a little shopping.
Phil, did you get any pushback from the residents about that plan?
Well, nobody wants to walk from there to there. But the way the mail is now anymore, you'd have to walk a distance because everything has to be somewhat centralized. And so like I said, if we had a kiosk here with 30 boxes and one down there with 30 boxes, people would have to walk a certain distance regardless. So I'm hoping that this kind of is on people's way home. It'll be fob operated, so they'll have 24/7 access. They can go whenever they feel like there's less traffic. I have been advocating, and just so you know, and hopefully Chad and I will be talking more about this, parking along this street for commercial use only, I think is, this is, like I said, this is high risk for retail tenants. They don't survive. They hardly survive in Madison. And I think we have to try to give them some advantages to be able to accommodate their customers. And just like walking to the postal service, nobody wants to walk to go to get a cup of coffee. They want to be able to park as close as possible. And I know that there's ordinances and there has to be a process and we have to look at different ways of doing this. But you want condensed neighborhoods, you want retail to serve those people, you've got to make some accommodation for people to use their car, to stop there if the weather's inclement, or there's people that are going to the school, drop off their kids, that they can just pop in there and get a coffee or a pizza, whatever they might want to buy, whatever vendors are there. I know that the developers of these 4 buildings are going to try to accommodate better than most as far as rent and be able to participate with the tenants in rental. The better they do, the better, the more the rent. The more people that live in Terra Vesa, that there'll be more rent. So that they'll never be out of market, but maybe they're going to get below market in the beginning to give them a chance to survive. Because the chances are, the risk is so high, the chances are against them all the time to be able to survive as a small retailer. So that might be something that we'll want to hopefully be able to talk about more. I know it's contrast to the ordinances in the city to have parking for commercial use only, but I think it's something just at least to have some discussion about and see how it can work. So, all right?
Hey, Phil?
Yes.
Just a question. How are the people getting their mail delivered now that live there?
Well, if you drive through there, Mike, you'll see a bunch of ugly-looking mailboxes that are temporary.
Okay.
And they will all be disposed of, or at least I'll try to find somebody that needs them that's doing another development.
Okay.
But that's all they are. And for instance, they had to all be on one side of Endive. They had to all be on one side of Versailles. They have to be all on one side of Radicchio. So the mail guy or the mail person could come in and just go down these streets once and out. So, yeah, so again, this person lives right here, has to walk down to Radicchio to get their mail. And that just would not change regardless of what we did. Okay? So we do, yeah, so again, the traffic patterns, it's great for this location, south, north, over to the new Quick Trip will be great. When do they expect that to be done, by the way?
They were anticipating later this year.
Great. That's it's 10,000 square foot, like a mini grocery store like in Belleville?
Prototype, yeah.
Great. Yeah. That'll be a welcome asset as well in the area. So that's the update on where we are. The lots in that phase that's under construction right now will be available probably in September. Building permits, I know that the plans for condos and as well as the single-family homes are being developed right now. Encore, Altira, and Tim O'Brien Homes will have basements in the ground as soon as they possibly can in the fall. And if the weather is decent, like I said, probably September, they'll be pulling permits. And there'll be the condos that will, you know, it's what's affordable housing anymore. But I think they ended up at $375 for the last ones that were sold in the original phase. I'm not sure they're going to be able to stay at that price anymore. We'll see. Any other questions at all?
So Phil, just kind of looking at the map that was in the packet, and as you're expanding to the northeast, I guess, how long do you think it'll take before you're completely out of?
Well, yeah, I think depending on the economy, Andy, 6 to 8 years. You know, time goes so fast, and with the approval process and the short construction season we have here, you know, that would be my guess. And that would be that'd be a long time involved with this property.
Phil, do you want to share with people about the potential restaurant in the senior housing?
Yeah, they're, River Song is probably, well, at least the plans that I've seen and that they've talked about is actually going to have a restaurant in it that will enter off of Lacy Road. It will be open to the public. It'll be part of their campus. They're also planning to have a bistro. They'll also have some other community space that can be shared with the neighborhood. So they want to be part of the community. I think from what Matt had told us before, there's about 60 employees that they will have. I'm hoping the bus service that was approved the other night will help them recruit for employees that we're going to get. I should have pointed that out when we had that part of the video up, but at least at this point in time in 2023, Madison Metro will service Terra Vesa. Will come in off of MM, down Lacy Road, go down a couple of blocks to Radicchio, turn up towards the school, and then come back out, back to MM again. Oh, thanks, Andrew. Let's see. Well, oh, okay, right here. So MM and Lacy Road comes in. It'll come down to Radicchio, which is right here, and then go back out Brassica. So somewhere in here, there'll be a stop, bus stop. It might even be where we have the bike stations.
Parking there will be, I'm sorry, parking, will need a little bit of parking there to accommodate if people do ride up on a car and get in a bicycle,
Yeah.
so that fits.
Well, there's City Street that'll be available, but I'm not sure where they'll put the bus stop, but that's scheduled for 2023. And they will review the numbers in 2024. I'm not sure we'll have the density quite there yet to justify, but hopefully, you know, they'll see the potential and continue the service. We always hope for multiple ways of transportation in this neighborhood. And I'm not discounting the fact that we'll have a hopefully a community car service at some point in time, but there's got to be a mass of people. And I'm projecting 3,000 people living in this neighborhood at full build-out. The way it's looking right now with families that are moving in, I wouldn't doubt that that will be the case.
What's kind of the average value of the homes that are currently built?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Mike, because I would say in this first phase, just by the average price, probably in the 425 range. In that original phase, there's probably $50 million of just residential housing that's been built. That will be probably not fully assessed yet, but certainly will be in the next year or two. The homes are running probably right now from 450 to 600, the newest ones. And I'm disappointed about that, frankly. I mean, I always thought that this would be a way to provide some more affordable housing, but it really is it's very difficult, obviously, for the builders. There's been so much pressure on pricing. Our lot prices initially were $65,000 a lot that I thought would really provide some opportunity. But, and the builders have to meet the consumer demand too. I mean, they're gonna build to what their buyers will buy. And again, with all the prices and everything of lumber especially, it's been widely known, it's been very, very difficult. So, and there's shortages of everything. And the thing is, when you do an original phase of 139 lots plus another 19 lots of T5, there has to be some pretty sizable building companies that are involved here. This can't be, unfortunately, a mom and popper building 1 and 2 homes a year. So that was the strategy on having some quality, larger companies come in and work with us on taking down the lots. And they have probably fewer problems than small building companies in getting material and getting labor. So it has worked out that way, but we've also been able to accommodate 4, 5, 6 single or, like I said, mom and pop building companies to be able to come in and buy lots and build 1 or 2 homes a year. So it's worked out pretty well, I think, to get a variety.
In the T5 area on the map, are any of those lots still available for sale for if a development entity or company wanted to come in?
There are a few. Most of it is under contract. There's going to be a big change in that T5 area in the next couple of years. I'm really hoping we can get a little bit more retail, but I am also realistic about the marketability of it. And I think even the smart code would require us to put in significantly more retail than we think we can absorb. So we have to have that discussion with planning about it.
Okay, I'm going to ask kind of maybe a little touchy question, but since we have a couple new alders, can you just provide us with a little background about this development? I mean, Mike and I know how long it took you to start the planning process to actually get, basements in the ground. And I think it's important for you to tell your story because I think sometimes the public doesn't understand about holding costs. And every time there's a delay, what that means to not only the developer, but the end user. Every delay adds cost. And when we talk about affordable housing, this is probably a prime example of, compounded holding costs.
Yeah. Well, let's not dwell on the past. I think I think that the city has improved its neighborhood planning process, And this process took 2 years already, and you have a very politically active township to the east. We had some very, I think, some sensitive lands to the east that that really drove what we did from a stormwater management system and the wetland. So it was a challenge, Joyce. I mean, I'm not, but I think that Fitchburg learned from that whole process. But yes, it drives up costs. We have not ever asked for or received any TIF consideration. It would help if we would have, I think, probably had somewhat of a TIF, if they could have been included in a TIF district so that someone could have gone for a tax credit project. But we you know, there's enough challenges with all of that too. So I think that we've done the best we can in following the SMART code, creating the density we needed. This probably would not have been feasible as a typical suburban neighborhood. But I think it's, you know, there's a lot of things along the way that I can't expect people to understand or staff to understand. It's not their problem to understand what we go through. That's what we have to do. We make our own decisions on whether to move forward or not and to justify it. So I'm not, yeah, I think, you know, a lot of that is just in the past. I think the politics needs to stay out of development. It was certainly evident with this, but like I said, I think the city has learned from that process. You're doing things more timely. I think there should be more visioning. I think there should be more looking ahead, thinking about development that, in, for instance, school districts like Verona, I know there's a neighborhood plan that's starting, but they take a long time. And you're always playing catch up. There's never an adequate supply for someone to come in and actually do something, because you may have land that's approved for development in a district, but it's an unmotivated landowner that does not want to develop. And some people may say, well, that's fine, we don't want to. Well, it's not really fine when you have your the city financials that are always at contention. So, and people do want to live here. There's no question about that. I think everything that's being developed, and I'm sure in the other neighborhoods, whether it's Viridian or Fahey's, they're certainly not having a problem moving their lots and builders moving their homes. You have to kind of strike while the iron's hot, and I think that there should be more motivation to move things along as quickly as possible without compromising. But I am concerned a little bit about what's happening or not happening in Verona, the Verona district of Fitchburg, because there's very little, if anything, left. And by the time the next plat gets approved, or someone actually decides to develop their property, you're 6 months to 12 months already out of property for builders to build on. So there's policy decisions along the way that always, and of course, elders have to answer to their constituents. So get it from both sides. But yeah, I mean, looking back on that whole thing, it was just probably something I would have thought twice about again. But honestly, look at Harlan Hills, for instance. We did that in the early 2000s, late 1990s. Probably the nastiest development process I've ever been involved in, because people did not want to be in the Arboretum and look across and see homes. As you call, we had a referendum in the city to buy part of that property. Well, now the homes turn over, and it's probably the highest priced neighborhood in the city, and homes turn over in 30 to 60 days at the most. People want to live here. And talk about location. There's probably no better location than Harlan Hills. Where we are at Terra Vesta, might rival it in a different way. So, there's just opportunities that I think that maybe we see, I see on the private side sometimes that don't always run parallel to policy in the city. And I think it's just part of a visioning process that should happen, and say, okay, how can we move this in these hotspots? You get calls all the time from people that want to create. They want to create something. They see a market here, and they say, we want to do something. Here's our plan. Boom, boom, boom. Well, we can't accommodate it for 6 months or 12 months. Well, we'll go to DeForest or whatever. And you lose the opportunity. So, but I understand it's the wheels of government. So,
Can I ask a question on smart code?
sure.
What do you like best about smart code based on your experience so far? And are there any modifications maybe that we should look at based on what you've learned in practice now in kind of the built environment that have come to the forefront as we kind of customize that code for Fitchburg and for, let's say, a four-season climate?
Yes, it is tight. Probably the most difficult part of smart code is the density encouragement, but the tightness of a site like that, or of what it turns out to be the neighborhood. I think what I like about it, I think that you can create the density in the population to have a mixed-use neighborhood where people can actually walk to something. I think as this neighborhood continues to fill out and we create these natural amenities in the neighborhood, that there'll be the density that's necessary to make these things practical. It'll make those commercial activities justifiable. The biggest drawback, one of them I see, is the utility placement, the setbacks. They're having a very difficult time with the utility easement and then the depth of the lots and the setback requirements. They're such a minimum. So many times they'll expose a gas line when they're excavating. And it's a little unnerving when these guys in these big backhoes are digging and, oh, there's the orange gas line, or yellow, whatever color it is now. And we've asked for some relief on the setbacks, and it's not been allowed. And I think that's something that should be looked at. Because it is, these setbacks are, and the whole, one of the purposes of smart code is to bring the front porch and the front door close as possible to the sidewalk. So it's it's kind of social interaction type of thing. But utilities have to run somewhere. And where it is, with the policy here, it just doesn't really work very well. Snow removal will be interesting if we get another 2008 or whatever it was when we got 12 feet. There'll be a lot of hauling. There's only so many places to put it. But I think, generally people are happy in their neighborhood. And that's what, to me, that's what it comes down to, Mike. I mean, if we're doing this right, and there's a market demand for it, and overall people are happy where they live, and that's probably the most gratifying part anymore. Obviously there's a financial aspect to it as well, but you just don't want to be fielding complaints all the time. And I think it's, there's always the 10% factor, but other than that, it's been good. Trash removal is always a little interesting with the alleys and new construction and contractors and so on, but you kind of just get over it, just kind of move it along.
Thanks.
Jim, I saw you had your hand up earlier.
Oh,
Yeah, a question that I always have is as the city grows and as we develop more, does the city have enough staffing to actually support the processes and procedures, systems that is needed to kind of support that? And I don't know who could answer the question, or is that, something that even can be answered right now? But is that a part of the delay that is factored into, you know, getting approvals and everything else like that besides the political process?
As an outsider, that's a great question, Jim, because I do believe there's more staff needed in planning. And smart code it's a difficult zoning process. When you lost Tom and then Susan and then Lisa, people that actually knew the code, I'm sure Deanna is having it's like learning Greek for her as well. Although I think during the interview process, she said that they did a little bit of smart code type of zoning down in Houston or down where she came from. But yeah, I think it's, this city is 35,000 people. And now that Wade's gone, I'm sure the staffing there is pressure on staff. And I think that once these projects get rolling, like even with Terra Vesa, a lot of the approvals are done at staff level rather than taking the planning commission, which is probably an advantage, Mike, that you were wondering about, that they make the decisions at staff level. So if they've got a lot of plans and projects on their plate, yeah, it's difficult for them to get to something timely. But I don't think planning has not been a delay area from my perspective. I think, and Sonia as well. I mean, they turn things around, I think, very quickly. And we're very pleased about and appreciate that. Because I know there's a lot of things that are in the hopper. Well, I don't know, but I'm sure there are a lot of things in the hopper that are on their plate right now. But yeah, Jim, I think that's, you got budgets coming up. I'm sure that's something to be asking the staff about. See if there's something, and I'm sure Wade needs to be replaced. And maybe there's an opportunity for somebody to do multiple jobs there.
Thank you for that answer.
Can I echo one both to Jim and to Alder Udell who are here? I would echo with what Phil said. I've been working with this city for 15 years and I've lived here for 30. I don't think there's enough folks over here. The folks that are here are good and helpful, but they're spread so thin. And I can even go into this litany with the bike committee stuff, folks. We don't need, this isn't the bike committee, but it just takes too long sometimes to get stuff through that you would seem to be able to do at an easier site. So as you plan and as we grow, I moved here, it was 12,000 people, Jim, in 1992. Much different than what it is now, of course. So I would echo that as a citizen. So plan that as you go forward, I think. And it's nice to have Chad here as well, but it's not a complaint as much as it is let's plan for the future.
I appreciate those comments, and it always comes down to the operating budget and where that goes and those tight operating budgets. And that could be another discussion for another day, but I just wanted to circle back, but thank you for your comments. Circle back to the setback that you referenced because of, I'm assuming it's the main gas main out in.
Both.
In road right away and lateral? Is
What's
that gas main being laterals as well?
No, these gas lines run along the front of the properties, inside the sidewalk.
Inside the
Towards
sidewalk?
the house, yeah.
Okay, so they're in road right away?
They're not in the terrace. They're inside.
I understand. Sidewalk, they'll be in road right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have are you suggesting that maybe a further setback to?
Right.
But just looking at Google Maps, if you have a larger setback, or that doesn't allow you much further room in the rear as well for the alley. Then, correct? I mean,
right.
Something has to give.
Sometimes it's only a foot. It's not. I think we did bring to the attention of the planning department at that time, and it was denied.
Sure.
But I just thinking, it's something. Why can't they be in the terraces? For instance. So I mean,
that's a good point.
Again, Public Works has their reasoning for wanting them where they are and so on. Mm-hmm. But I think when you're promoting neighborhoods like this, dense neighborhoods, everything gets in the way.
Yeah.
And so I'm not trying to make it easier for the builders. I'm just trying to be realistic about what can really work.
Well, I guess the point that I'm driving at is that I sat on a call for Cyene Road in the Uptown area, and there was a parking issue on Cyene Road, and very contentious, that public hearing. And parking was pretty much designed for that particular alley. And then the largest complaint I heard was the drives are too short for the vehicles. So
Right.
I'm just wondering, if we increase that setback, are we creating another problem?
Well, and
as far
that's-
as parking?
And it's all how that setback is done. And again, it doesn't have to be a lot. But yes, the parking, our driveways out there, we made sure that they were long enough for cars, because I know the problem you're talking about.
Yeah.
They're half the distance of a car, and they end up parking on the lawns in the back. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just no way to do this. So you're right, there's a kind of a give, take, push, pull situation with utilities.
Sure.
And the depths of the lots.
I just want to make sure we're thinking through this
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
great thought, that's all. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Good point, though. Thank you.
Right. Were there any other questions or comments for Phil? I would note, since Joyce didn't quite get the answer that she was looking for, I think, but I believe 2006 was when we had the first initial public hearings on this.
Yeah, 6 or 7, something like that. And,
So just for the Alder's perspective, we started this process in 2006, roughly.
yeah, and I think we finally got clearance in 16.
And I would just thank Phil for not only, your vision for Terra Vesta and the development of that, but Harlan Hills, Pine Ridge, Oak Meadows, Swan Creek, and all the neighborhoods that you have helped develop and vision in Fitchburg that helps to make Fitchburg what it is today.
Thanks.
So we appreciate that.
Thanks, Mike.
I'll second that, yeah.
Yes, very much
Thank you.
so.
Andy, I did get the answer that I wanted because he did explain that holding costs equals more costs at the end. So, yeah, no, and also that he built the case for, we need to be forward-thinking, we need to be ready, we need to have things in the pipeline for not just next year, but for 10, 20 years out. So planning and visioning is perfect. Thanks, Phil.
By the way, Phil is a former, I think, original member of CETA
Yeah,
many, many years ago.
it was Economic Development Commission.
And before that, it was the committee to look after the aging population. in-
Yes, that too. And
We
the-
are now part of that.
And we didn't have any restaurants commission, and, the Chamber of Commerce Commission. Actually, on the EDC, and I was on the council at the time, and I proposed Mike's position, and it took 3 times, but the chair of the EDC at the time wanted his position under the planning department, and I would not take it to the council and advocate for that. And he quit. And I said goodbye, because he could not work, and they could not work under another department. They had to be their own department. And so, how many years, Mike?
27.
There you go. So, and on his resume, he managed the Regent Apartments on Monroe Street. And I said, anybody that can manage that property, he's gonna do well. Right?
Yep.
Good choice, Phil.
Yeah,
That one, that's new.
yeah, he did.
He's got a lot of great stories, believe me.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, and I asked Andrew to run one more quick video, and it was something that I saw, and it's about having urban farming in neighborhoods. And I think this is something that, again, part of the community development, not the economic development, but part of the community development of your commission, to look at when these things are coming forward, new neighborhoods. Fitchburg's got so much parkland it can't maintain, okay? And why not look at a major or a larger strategy on having produce created in these large areas? It can still be open space, but make that open space work for for you, rather than just be mowed 3 times or 4 times a year. And cost the city, you might be able to hire a planner for all the mowing that goes on in Fitchburg. So as part of this community ag plan, it would be good to look at, I think anyway, it'd be good to look at how you can leverage that across the city with maybe one land manager and create larger community gardens and that people can use, but also to have nonprofits be involved in. And they have food. Are you going to start it? Yep. All right, start it. There you go.
Now to Two Americas, where we show you the side of America you may be familiar with and the one you may not. We've all heard of new homes built around a golf course, but what about a farm? Tonight, we're focused on the importance of the farm-to-table lifestyle and community. Julia Fellow introduces us to the first agri-hood in our state.
Here you go. 4 mamas, 4 that are pregnant right now.
This may look like a rural beef farm, but it is Kurt Wiebelhaus's backyard.
We couldn't have dreamed it as well as it is.
10 beautiful homes sit on 40 acres of land in McWanago. All the homeowners bought in on the same idea of an agri-hood. If you've never heard of this before, just think of the words agriculture and neighborhood put together. Cows are not the only neighbors that they share this space with. So are the bees and chickens.
I have 8, so 20. You can cross that out, make it 20.
Everybody's followed through, and it's working.
Yes.
You want to hand me a couple?
Cassie Ziller moved here from Waukesha County with her son and husband.
I love taking food from seed all the way through harvest and getting to show my son that process and that growth and helping him understand where food comes from.
Angie Paluchek had never been near a chicken before moving here from Oak Creek.
Oh, you got more in there?
She is so happy her children will grow up here.
Having our kids to be able to grow up and learning where all that comes from is pretty incredible.
The piece that really is like the cherry on top that's been beautiful is the neighbors, how much of a family we are together.
An idea that the Wiebelhauses discovered in a magazine article that bloomed into this as they await a 3rd season of new fruits and vegetables that will soon begin to sprout. In McWanago, Julia Fellow, TMJ4 News.
All right, Julia, thanks. According to the urban...
So, 10 homes for something like this is probably underutilization, but it doesn't have to be, and I'm sure this is very expensive housing, it's McWanago, I'm sure. But just the concept. I mean, there's a demand from people that want to be involved in these types of things. And if there is an organization where they don't have to necessarily be the organizer, if there's a way that they can participate in maybe not livestock and so on, but being involved in planting and harvesting and eating the food that's being grown in their neighborhood, or peeling off the extra and giving it to the Prairie Food Network and so on. I just think that this is a huge opportunity for this city to look at this type of thing as part of the Community Development Commission. And so I'm just throwing that out there for future discussion, and I hope that it's something that is part of the visioning we were just talking about. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
All right. Move on to item number 7, which is hotel room tax report considerations. Joyce sent that information out maybe 2 days ago, 3 days ago, Monday, okay. So that should be in your packet.
We got the updated first quarter room tax report for 2022, and the full amount that came in is $66,301.80, which is an increase of 87% from our low of 2021 with the COVID impact there. So we're still down from our high of almost 88,000 in 2019, but we're climbing back with room night demand and hotel room tax revenue. Any questions on the room tax? So it's getting better, and we continue to, obviously 70% of that then is allocated to our tourism partner, the Fitchburg Chamber Visitor Business Bureau, and then they manage the relationships with Destination Madison, which also includes the Sports Commission activity there, and they were at the Committee of the Whole meeting last night to provide an update and report of their activities. Then the other thing that the Finance Department also updated was that the Biz Boost loan program that we did to help our small businesses impacted by COVID are seeing repayments. There were some that, just from some communication and moving around, were a little slow on some of their payments, but we did some follow-up with them. Joyce did some good outreach, and everybody is current at this point in time.
Excuse me, so everyone is current since that last report that went out, after your reaching out?
Yep.
As far as payments?
Yeah, so it's a kind of you have to remember that you have to make your payment. So I do send an email out monthly just saying, hey, the end of the month's coming up, your payment's due. There was one person that just had some glitches with their bank, and so I reached out, and they're current now, so.
Well, good. I didn't want to make it sound like I was, like, well, where's the money? I just wanted to know why, and is there something else that we can do? Maybe they're still having some financial issues. That's all. That's the reason why I asked the question. So, yeah, thank you.
Then looking at kind of the collections, quarter one obviously is up. Are we hearing anything from the hotels, just what their bookings look like throughout the rest of the year, how quarter 2 and 3 might turn out?
I should do some outreach to them just to check in and have some of those conversations. I haven't done that recently. So I'll do that and just kind of take the temperature from some. I know they had a good graduation weekend. Obviously, the parking lots were full and a lot of activity and people staying, and they'll have the upcoming football season, with full stadiums again and things like that. So that all helps. And last night we heard from Destination Madison and also Angela that it's really the leisure kind of travel and youth sports that are driving a lot of the room night demand in the greater Madison region. Corporate is still sluggish there, or that hasn't fully turned around and rebounded as far as people traveling to conferences and conventions and things like that for work. So I think that still is in recovery mode there. But they did say that last night we heard the average daily rate was climbing back up, and the occupancy rates were climbing back up. And we can send you the slides from last night that they had, because that's some good data that they get from the STR, I think is the group that they use that run those reports for the region.
Yeah, that'd be appreciated. Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably not for now, but probably just a longer term discussion of will some of those corporate and convention dollars ever come back, or now that people have discovered Zoom exists, will some of that travel just be gone permanently? We had a really good conference here that Fire Chief Joe helped to bring to Fitchburg. It was the Fire Chiefs Association that they worked closely with Angela and her team it was at the Wyndham Hotel here, and it seemed like that went really well this year. So that was a good shot in the arm. That was, I think, in February, which is one of the slower months, of room night demand and activity. Were there any questions on the hotel room tax report considerations? We may come back to you at a future meeting to ask for some additional dollars for our promotional items. There were in short supply. We're having, just like everybody else, some supply chain issues that are out there, or even finding some vendors to provide us with kind of the
products that we've historically had here and at the level of quality that we want to have them at, too, as far as some of the promotional items. So that's something that we may do in a future meeting. And then I think the other discussion that we've been having with our tourism partner, Angela, is the banners have gone back up, but as you can see, they're kind of getting a little tired and worn there. So I think it's time for replacement of those items, and then not only replacement, but maybe expansion into some other new areas and everything, and then also with the winter decorations as well. So that'll be something we'll be working with our tourism partner on to kind of look ahead to see what's needed, not only from an inventory standpoint, but then also from a resource standpoint going forward, from hotel room tax dollars.
Since, Mike, you brought it up about the promotional items, I went back years ago. CETA at that time had voted that if we had a line item in the budget for promotional items, we, being Mike, could authorize an expenditure up to $2,500 without CETA approval. Just wanted to make sure that that's still a standing policy, or if we need to bring something back to you guys. This was back when Randy Hackbarth was on CETA, and it was an item that was actually voted on. So I just wanted to make sure that it's a standing policy, or you want to revisit that.
I would think it's still standing unless it's been countermanded by a different vote, but.
And we always keep you informed. We may move quickly because maybe somebody's having a 20% off sale or something like that. We're good shoppers, as far as we get the best bang for the buck where we can. And even if we authorize something, we obviously would come and give you updates on it, and you would see the dollar amounts and everything. We're very transparent on those kind of things.
Just not Frosty, the snowman.
No, yeah.
So, speaking of winter decorations, I know someone who has a lot of opinions on that. Can I send him your direction?
Yeah, we're always open to. Mm-hmm.
You probably know who it is, so.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, historically, for folks that weren't here when we first acquired those decorations, we brought in 3 different ones. We had Snowboy, the snowflakes that we ended up, and then there was a third one that we had samples of, and we landed on the winter snowflakes there. And believe it or not, when those first went up, you don't get a lot of compliments or even notes in the tax bills, but we actually got little handwritten notes from some people about how much they appreciated and enjoyed having the winter lights and snowflakes up.
Yeah, the Snowboy kind of looked like the Doughboy in Ghostbusters.
Yeah, he didn't make the cut.
It was pretty bad.
I obviously was not on council or involved with local politics at that time, but I remember in my day job downtown, I received a lot of compliments. City of Fitchburg, snowflakes. So it was a very positive response. So it's good.
Yeah.
All right, I think we could probably move into the Economic Development Director updates.
Sure, and maybe, Dan, do you want to go first with the venture debt? And then I can go into my updates?
I can do that. I am the City of Fitchburg representative on the venture debt group, which is about 17 or 18 banks, City of Middleton and the City of Fitchburg and the City of Madison and MG&E. And that group gets applications for loans from businesses in the development stage. They already have a product, they have a place in the market, and they're trying to get over the first hump. And so they usually have a venture capital group lined up that first the owners, then the venture capital. Now they're looking for the second tranche of money. Platypus Technologies LLC, back up. We only get involved if the entity is located in Fitchburg. So I go to these monthly or quarterly meetings, whatever, whenever people have applications, and I just observe and watch because there never is a Fitchburg entity out there. There is now. Platypus Technologies LLC has 8 employees. They put a micro coating on metals it's a very limited market, and their market focus is on hospitals for young children. So, in any event, they're trying to borrow $200,000 from the venture debt group, and the venture debt group is so they can buy a business out from Pennsylvania, get the equipment and their customer list. The company hasn't been active since COVID struck. The bank First Business Bank is fully behind them. The guys that are in the know at the venture debt group, they are behind them. We had a presentation Monday of this week from Marco, the man in charge. He was asked some questions. He's going back to his accounting and accountants, and he's going to come back and meet with the venture debt group, make their full application. Once he gets committee approval, he'll come before the 20 people that have lent the money and make his proposal. So right now it's kind of wait and see. They have 8 employees, like I said. The acquisition will maybe add 1 more, but they're in a tough business. But that's it.
Just for everybody's reference, Platypus is located in our new Venture Center building, right along Nobel Drive. In fact, they were the first tenant of that building that drove the development of the first new Venture Center building there. And I think, Dan, if the request for the $200,000 goes forward, our portion from the Fitchburg loan pool would be about $7,000.
Or 7. We can put in more, but we want to wait and see first.
Yeah. And just historically, for everybody's reference, we capitalized a revolving loan fund program back in the late 1990s through Tax Increment District Number 3, which helped us develop the Fitchburg Business Park, which is where Oak Bank is over there. And historically, we never qualified for some of the other funding sources to capitalize a revolving loan fund because our distress scores weren't high enough. We were considered a wealthy community, and we weren't eligible for the traditional sources. So we went to Mike Harrigan, our financial advisors at Ellers at that time, and said, we'd like to have something in our toolkit. How can we come up with some resources that we could have available for businesses? And he offered the approach of capitalizing a revolving loan fund of $375,000 through TID number 3. That was a grant to the city. The stipulation was, while the TID was open, those funds could only be expended in the geographic area of TID number 3. That was a very successful TID, and once it closed out, then we could take those dollars and use them citywide. And then when MDC launched the venture debt program, because we have a science and technology base, business base here, we decided to move $200,000 of that $375,000 into the venture debt program to make available for science and technology companies. And as Dan indicated, the only time that money is tapped into is when there's a Fitchburg company that is requesting a loan kind of through that portfolio.
And I would add, when the venture debt group makes a loan, almost all the time, they make the loan with a reservation to have a warrant or option that to convert 20% of the loan amount into stock at a predetermined price. Now, we got burned on one case and lost $44,000 of the loan fund when the equipment was shipped off to Taiwan without anybody's knowledge. On the other hand, we got $48,000 back on another conversion to stock that was then taken over. Very risky business, but whenever there is a Fitchburg company that's making the application, the powers to be downtown at MDC are usually very receptive and encouraging of the business in Fitchburg, and they really bend over backwards to see that they're there. So we don't have a lot of action, but when the time comes, the rubber meets the road down there, and it's a good place to be, and I'm glad that we're in it.
What's also, I think, helpful with that group is they have a financial underwriting kind of committee that looks at it from the financial perspective, but then they also have the science and technology kind of committee that looks at the IP and the science and the tech kind of behind it. So it's a worthwhile group to have that expertise around the table.
Can I give just one quick shout out to Platypus? So they've actually taken in some other startup companies as well and shared some of their lab space as a sublet. So they're a great company for us to have here in Fitchburg for the startup community.
Can I continue on then? Okay, a few other updates. The B-Cycle contract was approved by the council, so that's moving forward. Our folks at Trek and B-Cycle hopefully will be proceeding with the order of the equipment, and then kind of the launch timing will be contingent upon when does that equipment arrive. The other thing that we're working on is, you might have, one of my previous updates at an earlier meeting about the Hartung property, that they're working with Sarah Investments. Their comprehensive development plan was approved, and that's moving forward. So simultaneously, we've got a city staff team working with Ellers and Associates, looking to create tax increment district number 14. So we are working with Ellers to get the draft project plan. The organizational meeting of the Joint Review Board is scheduled for June 21st, and then hopefully the final approval of that will be on July 26th to move forward. And that's an area, again, that would have mixed use with significant multifamily residential units, probably about 478 on the northwest corner of that property. But then it will also bring us about a good 80 acres of more office, science, technology, land for those types of uses there, and that's the reason for creating the tax increment district. And that's helpful for us, as again, we're kind of trying to think ahead and forward and proactive with some of the RFP requests that we get from WEDC and our regional partner MadRep that we've submitted recently, that have been looking everything from a biopharmaceutical company to a drug company to a data center. We've been submitting that site as an option, but one of the boxes we haven't been able to check is that it's in a tax increment district, or that there would be assistance available to help drive a project. So that we'll be bringing that forward. As soon as we have the draft project plan, we can kind of share that with you guys so you can see what that looks like too, and some of the other public infrastructure costs that would be associated with that. And then the rezone of 5262 Verona Road, that's the former Roughing It in Style building along Verona Road. That was approved at the council meeting Tuesday night, and we're moving that forward for our friends at the Latino Chamber of Commerce, who are looking to transform that building into a workforce kind of employment center there. So they've been a great partner, and I think that's going to be a good reuse of that building in a great location along Verona Road. Coming up next on the next month's Plan Commission agenda, in venture capital, the folks that have done the Terrace Point mixed-use building, they've also broken ground on the Oshala mixed-use building. That's just east of UW Credit Union. But now they're bringing forward a third project. This would be just to the north of the Oshala building, and it's on the eastern end of the Avalon Senior Housing Development there, where it abuts Index Road. There's a third lot there. So they're bringing forward this would be a purely multifamily residential development. They're going to have a pre-application meeting with the Plan Commission for another 170 units of multifamily market rate housing at that site. Thermo Fisher is coming forward with their final plat for the 7-acre parcel that they want to create right at McKee Road and the Badger State Trail in Spoke and Sprocket there. So that'll be coming forward for a prime site with frontage right on McKee Road. We've got a surgery center that's coming forward for a conditional use permit. That would be in the Class A office building, the Benjamin building there at 5400 King James Way. That already has KL Engineering and power line systems in there, so they would take about 7,600 square feet for a surgery center. Then we got the Dane County Emergency Management Building. They're just coming forward for a architectural design review to add an elevator to the former fire station that we had over there on the west side of the city. We've got Buc-ee's at 2182 Highway MM is coming forward to add a fitness center at that location. Buc-ee's Fitness, it's going to be called. And then we've got the Cottonwood rezone went forward for General Beverage. That would allow them to do a 63,000 square foot warehouse distribution facility that is much needed with some of their product inventory. And the other good thing about that is it will allow them to proceed with their office headquarters expansion at their existing site. They're planning to go up, and it would be a multi-story addition to that. And then Highfield Reserve is down for the 228 units. This is in Fahey Field South for townhome and multifamily units. So some good activity still moving forward there with the items on the Plan Commission agenda.
Mike, I've got a question, and it may or may not fit directly into what you just presented, but with Costco going in out there off Wayland Road in Verona, I see as a citizen a heck of a lot more traffic on that road. As we know, the road's kind of falling apart as you get west of Fitchburg Road, yeah, Fitch Road, yeah. So is anybody talking to town of Verona? I know you got town and city of Verona, just like we had town and town, but I'm just concerned about the traffic out there, and we're trying to keep the bikes off of it, as you know, but I'm just concerned the road's going to get a lot more use coming forward. And is there any joint planning going on between Fitchburg and Verona on that?
I know there have been some conversations with the town. You know, the town, has very limited resources, there, but we've talked internally, about that, but it hasn't resulted in any kind of solution or funding, for it. As Phil alluded to, with the ARPA money and the TID 6 one-time money, the council and elected officials authorized that we could proceed and utilize some of that money for 2 neighborhood plans. And one would be the South Stoner Prairie neighborhood plan, which is south of Lacy Road and abuts Fitchburg. It's about 279 acres there. So that's something that's on our radar screen as part of that process envisioning. We've already had a couple of internal meetings on how and when we proceed with that. The thought process is we would issue the RFP sometime this summer to contract with a planning firm to kind of lead us through that neighborhood plan process over the next 12 to 18 months there. Because, again, as Phil emphasized, once Viridian builds out the corner of Seminole Highway and Lacy Road, and until we get Payne and Dolan's subdivision there that's in the urban service area at Fitchburg and Lacy, we're going to be out of lots, in the Verona School District there. So we want to get started on this neighborhood plan for South Stoner, and we have met with both of the main property owners there. There's Payne and Dolan, and then there's Fitchburg Hills LLC. So we've had conversations with both of them about proceeding with that. Yep. Yep. No, we've been asking the question, and like I said, I don't think there's any solutions yet, on it. One thing we have talked about is, are there other federal funding pots, to look at that maybe would help us kind of fill the town's gap as far as, funding that maybe they don't have to bring to a project like that. But we have been talking about it, internally.
Mark's comments, where I live on the east end of Wayland, and I avoid the belt line to beat the band. So I go from Wayland all to Verona, to my house all the time. And when you get beyond Fitchburg Road, especially now that the bikers are out, they're trying to navigate that road, which is just hideous. And there's going to be a tragedy that's going to occur out there. Now, Fitzrona Road, going north from Verona Road, or from Wayland, is worse, 10 times worse, but the bikers stay off of that.
Yeah, they do. They do only because, well, first of all, you can get, with Military Ridge and with Badger State, they're all going to Paoli or out west. You want to keep them off, as we've looked at the bike committee. I'm sorry to take this meeting for that, but Andy can relate to this. It's important to get people on roads or venues they feel safer on. Wayland, when I moved here, there were no cell phones. We could ride Wayland to our heart's content because it wasn't that busy. Now it's gotten so busy with dump trucks and things like that in construction. I just was raising the point, when Costco comes, it's going to be even worse. And if we put housing out there, we're going to have the same thing. So I just think it's important we do some joint planning, and I couldn't agree with you more. The roads are falling apart out there. So it's just an FYI, and we're not going to solve it here or today, but I think it's, as we plan, there's stuff going on out there that I think we need to be forward thinking about.
And speaking of Costco, because you mentioned Costco, their marketing department has reached out to me and has requested, we're playing Fonte right now, but they would like to set up a tent in Fitchburg somewhere to market membership.
My wife will thank you.
On Monday night, we had an event at the Delta Beer Lab for the town of Madison businesses to kind of welcome them and introduce them and build that relationship to Fitchburg. So we had about 20 businesses there, which was a great start and a great launch to that. Everybody from somebody from Exact Sciences to Quartz Benefits to one of the multifamily apartment owners, to the Kavanaughs, who are on Bryant. Tom Zimbrick was there, Adams Outdoor Advertising. So it was a really good start and launch, I think, to our outreach and communication to them as we work towards that transition date of October 31st of 2022. So we're going to continue to reach out to them through this period and work with them on any questions. One question a lot of them had was their address going to change? This is one of those situations where the flexibility of being able to use Fitchburg or Madison probably is a positive, especially for some of the science and tech companies there that have some regulation and licensing with the federal government. That can become a cumbersome process with them depending on how they're licensed and regulated on their application there. But it was a really positive event, I think, on Monday night, and we thank it was a joint event with our Fitchburg Chamber partners, but we thank them and also the Delta Beer Lab and elected officials and city staff who all worked and attended that event on Monday night. I think that's all that I have to report.
All right. Any questions for Mike? Or any committee member reports? Seeing none, move on to announcements. Note that there is a Housing Advisory Committee meeting on Monday, June 13th at 5 o'clock. And then our next CETA meeting will be on June 23rd.
One thing I will mention for the Housing Advisory Committee meeting, you might want to tune into that one, and maybe we can make sure that we send you the link. Joyce and I talked, and we requested and invited Jack Pearson from our building inspection department to present at that meeting and kind of give a really good overview and kind of synopsis of the status and kind of state of condition of our older multifamily housing stock here in Fitchburg. As you know, we've been focused on our rent-to-own workforce housing townhome program to utilize some of the affordable housing TID increment that we have from TID number 6. But as we look forward to the closure of TID number 4 next year, there's going to be probably another $3.7 or $4 million that will be going into our TID affordable housing fund there. And one of the other needs that we had identified in our 2019 affordable housing plan was, should there be some resources kind of directed and available to try and upgrade and improve and renovate and revitalize some of that older multifamily housing stock out there. So that's part of the reason for having Jack come to kind of give his assessment. And he's our, I think, our best boots on the ground as far as having that perspective to be able to provide for the Housing Advisory Committee. So I just would encourage you to tune in either the night of the meeting, or as you know, you can always, stream it at a later time and date from Fact TV as well and check it out. But hopefully there'll be some good, useful information and perspective.
All right, great. Thank you. With nothing further, we can move on to item number 10, which is adjournment.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you.